Thanks for staying tuned. It's another short Saturday when we bring you your favorite security and safety topic on television, Security Watch Africa, only on this channel, the Africa Independent Television. Welcome to the program today. My name still remains Patrick Abambo. On this program, we'll bring you that information you need to keep your life safe and secured. Today, we'll be able to do the usual opening protocols. We'll just go straight to what we have for the day, because we have two guests who will be joining us via Zoom to look at each two topics that we'll be discussing. And also we have a special report on what is happening in the Northeast, and also the initiative by the Chief of Army Staff on housing for soldiers. Let's quickly start with the Nigerian Army reports put together by Shuli Daniels.
In line with one of the pillars of his command philosophy, which is sound administration and personnel welfare, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, has introduced a new welfare initiative to help soldiers after service. The new welfare scheme, which is affordable home ownership option for all soldiers, was unveiled at the first quarter Chief of Army Staff conference in Abuja.
As a way of improving troops' welfare, new welfare initiatives are being implemented. The affordable home ownership option for all soldiers, otherwise known as AWOAs, aimed at alleviating the hardship soldiers face in securing personal accommodation for post-service life, is one such measure. As a way of making the scheme inclusive and showing our sensitivity to the plight of soldiers with operational-related disabilities, I've directed the Managing Director of Post-Service Housing Development Limited to set aside 5% of the AWOA scheme in each estate for allocation to this category of soldiers. The Nigerian Army will cover all the housing expenses at 100% for this category of soldiers.
To find out from those who knows about the importance of housing and how these will impact on personnel of the Nigerian Army, Security Watch Africa had an interview with Mr. Osilama, where he spoke on his view on that.
There are three basic needs of man. And in Nigeria, if we want to narrow it, let it reflect what is happening in Nigeria today, we say the three basic needs in Nigeria will be food, safety, because of security issues, and shelter. So if you don't have any of these three basic needs, you are likely to be confused about life. You are likely to feel frustrated, and morally you will be you'll be at disadvantage because you'll be feeling bad. So it's the best thing, best initiative that he has taken. That's the COAS. What he has done now is the best move to boost their morals. That means they are not working for nothing. They are not working in vain. They can see that there's a future. At least, even if they don't save money because of maybe the meager amount they take home, they are still going to get where to lay their head tomorrow. Their family, if anything go wrong, and maybe they lost their lives in the process, their families will not be stranded, which is one of the major problems most of our security outfits are facing. Their families end up being stranded. They are even chased out of the barracks. So it's the best thing that he has done, and I want to applaud him for that. Advantage of boosting their morals by assuring them that they are going to get accommodation, affordable housing, is that they will pay more attention. They'll be doing it sacrificially. That means they will not allow any sabotage. And when somebody pays attention, when you are focused on what you are doing, you get result. But when you are distracted because you are thinking about what if anything goes wrong now, what will happen to my family, you will not be successful in what you are doing. So I would like to say it's a very good step that he has taken, and not just to applaud him, to congratulate him. But I would like to also see him driving home this point. That means he will not just be a lip service. He should, implement this statement that he has just announced. Let the army, the soldiers, see their colleagues getting accommodation. So even if you have not got it, you know that there's hope. I will soon get my own. Because he can't build all the houses in one day. He has to be in phases.
On his assessment of the performance of the Nigerian Army, Mr. Osilama praised the Chief of Army Staff for his leadership and commended the Nigerian Army on the way they handled the Okwama incident.
They have improved. You can see some professional conduct, behavior. For instance, recently we heard about a village in the Niger Delta where the soldiers, even a commander, they were killed. The way the Nigerian Army handled it is not unlike them. The army we used to know, they will go back to that village and wipe out every living thing there. But they didn't do that. It shows a lot that they are not just the Nigerian Army we used to know. These ones now are trained. They are professionals. So they are now bringing their professional training to bear in situations where they are provoked. You can't just take a soldier and kill him and nothing happens. That nothing happens, and they are going to make sure they are going through the normal process of abiding by the law, the rules of the game, of engagement and all that. It shows that the army that we have today, they are completely different from the ones we used to have. Not to say those ones were not professionals, but to say that these ones now, they are beginning to play by the rules of the game.
Shirley Daniels, Security Watch Africa.
Via Zoom, Chimezie Amanyadike, a public affairs analyst, to joining us to look at what he feels arising from the Chief of Army Staff first quarter conference that took place recently.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick. Yeah, I went through the event, and I must say that I was particularly excited with some of the points of the conversation of the Chief of Army Staff with regards to the successes that the military has recorded so far in recent time. And then what particularly got me excited was the focus on welfare, the attention paid on welfare, of making affordable housing accessible to members of the armed forces, members of the army, of the Nigerian army. One of the things that was very prevalent for me growing up was the decadent appearance or decadent nature of some of the barracks that I used to visit as a kid, as a teenager, and even right now as an adult. And seeing the Chief of Army Staff pay particular attention to ensuring that he revamps this particular matter or this particular issue for members of the Nigerian Army is something that gladdens my heart, because there is nothing as important or as good to a human as having shelter that is not just there, but that is livable and that is commensurate to what is obtainable in contemporary society. So I really, really give the Chief of Army Staff kudos for this particular issue. And as for the successes that they've recorded all over the country, it's really, really been very exciting. You know, when you look at also some of the things that have happened to how peace has returned to the Southeast as a result of the operations of the military, there is something that gives a lot of cause for excitement and joy in the Southeastern region and the Niger Delta as well. Of course, sadly, the recent event that took place in the Niger Delta, we are happy, we are glad that indeed the Nigerian Army has demonstrated a great deal of professionalism in handling that particular debacle. And, like the previous speaker said, normally the Nigerian Army that we've always known would have stepped in and completely decimated that entire area, that entire locality. But we are happy with the level of professionalism that they've demonstrated. And all in all, I believe that under this particularly, the Nigerian Army is moving ahead with a great deal of professionalism, improvement, and will achieve more success.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chimezie Amanyadike, for your contribution. We do appreciate that. We'll further this conversation later on in another edition of this program. Thank you so much. Yes, we'll be going away from Amanyadike. We'll be going to issue of counter-terrorism, and fortunately, Security Watch Africa was one of those that visited the headquarters of Northeast Joint Operation Hadinkai during the week. Elizabeth Tanko was there, and she brings us an account of their visit, after which we'll be taking Mr. David Otto, who is in UK, to look at the African Counterterrorism Summit that took place recently in Abuja. Let's go to the report.
In line with his leadership style for transparency and accountability, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, approved the visit of defense correspondent to the Northeast, Northwest, South-South and Southeast theaters of operation for first-hand assessments and briefings. Security Watch Africa was among those assigned to the Northeast. On arrival at the headquarters Northeast Joint Operation Hadinkai, the team was received by the theater commander, Major General Wahidi Shuaibu, who welcomed the team with a brief of the activities of Operation Hadinkai.
Here in the theater, the Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai has transformed from various operations over the years, starting from the initial days of the insurgency, starting from Operation Boyona, to Operation Lafia Dole, to Operation Zaman Lafia, to Operation Hadinkai. So in all these aspects, there have been great changes and have been great transformation in terms of the security of the Joint Task Force, as well as in the general areas of our responsibility. Things have really improved for the better.
A detailed briefing on the fight against terrorism in the Northeast was given. Of particular interest was the restoration of peace and security, which has enabled the National Youth Service Corps Orientation Camp to be reopened, among other national activities.
Permit me to state that the operating environment of Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Hadinkai remains fluid but largely under control, with occasional isolated attacks on troops and violent activities against soft targets by elements of both Jama'atu al-Sunnah Lidawatil wa Jihad, JAS for short, and Islamic State West African Province, ISWAP terrorists. The Nigerian Army, being the lead force in the theater, has continued to collaborate and foster synergy with other components for anticipated operational end state. It is interesting to note that Operation Hadinkai has provided a safe and secure environment for the return of National Youth Service Corps Orientation Scheme to Maiduguri after over 12 years of suspension due to insurgent activities in Borno State. On the screen is a short clip of activities in the NYSC Orientation Camp.
After the briefing, it was time for interaction, and the question on the state of rescued Chibok girls was answered by the theater commander, Major General Shuaibu.
Where are they taken to? Are they with their families now, or where are they actually kept? Because I feel their mental state is not same when they were taken. So I keep wondering, did they just release them to go and be with their families, or I really want to know.
Now the procedure is that once they are rescued by own troops, because of the state they are in, you bring them to our own medical center so that you check them. Some of them, we find one or two things that if it's like Lydia now is having malaria, she's been treated for that. Then for some of the children, they are malnourished, and the doctors give them certain vitamins that they need to have as children. So that then from there, we now hand them officially to the Borno State Ministry of Women Affairs. That is when you see them, see the troops on TV handing them over. The other Chibok girls, the Borno State government is taking care of them so that they will continue their education. The children also continue their education as much as possible. So the other Chibok girls are with the Borno State government in a facility where if you want to see them, you can as well see them.
The team comments on the sport assessment of some communities in Borno State, beginning from Chabo, where we interacted with community members.
Yes, there are some killed, some abducted. How are they related to you? How close are they to you?
Me alakan su da ke da su.
Wanda aka dauka? Guda yar kauna ta ce.
Okay.
Wanda ku aka kashe muna kasar Gabra wancan mutanen mu gaba daya dai mun rasa mutum ya fi hadari ma.
Ya fi nawa?
Ya fi ɗari ma.
Okay.
A kwance gawa mun gudu mun bari wasu sun samu aure su.
Menene alakan ki da su wanda aka kashe?
Su wanda aka kashe din muna makautaka da su haka. Danga muna zaune da su.
Okay. She lost over 100 of her neighbors and they abducted some of her cousin sisters.
Sai muna ta dai zo ta muna masallaci. Ta ba mu ruwan sha. Ta kawo wuta a garin Chabal. Abinda muke nema.
The government provided water, light and masks for them now. So what me kuke so kuma nan gaba?
Yanzu abinda muke so nan gaba a kawo mana asibiti take duba lafiyar mu da yaran mu da maza da mata. Abinda muke so kuma muna tare da karancin abinci a duniya kuma kun san da shi.
Now they want government to provide hospital for them to treat especially women and children in this community.
We want Borno State government to assist us how to farm, like fertilizer or money assistance for farming, so that we are farmers. 75 or 95% of these people community are farmers.
From Chabal, we proceeded to Muna Garage and then to a one-time operational base of Boko Haram terrorists, Konduga, now bustling with activities, and we interacted with a former terrorist commander who surrendered to the troops.
Ina irin su wanke kaya guga haka da su din.
Okay. At that time he was an almajiri, so Shekau took him to become his housemate.
Daji na yi karatun shekara biyu har yanzu an ce ka gyara karatunka. Na yi sauken Qur'ani. A nan na fara yaki.
Okay. So later on he joined them in the bush and he became fully almajiri there. He read and then they introduced him into their troop.
A nan ne sai suka nada ni shugaba.
So he started war and he became a commander.
Sun tara mutane a karkashi na.
So he have his battalion.
An ba mu motoci da bindigogi da mutane haka.
Vehicles, Hilux, trucks and other very big weapons.
A nan muka fara yaki, muna yaki.
So they started war. Kamar yana da kai yaki.
Diyawa.
He fought in so many places. Kamar ka da kuma wuri biyar haka.
Wuri biyar? A wuri biyar mai sauki ne yayi.
Okay.
Mana. Na ji Damaturu.
He fought in
Damaturu.
Konduga. He fought in Konduga.
Tafawa Balewa.
Tafawa Balewa Bauchi.
Biu.
Biu.
Chibok. Dambuwa.
Da ka san lokacin da ka yi matan Chibok?
Mana.
Kana ciki?
Ina.
Okay, he's one of those who abducted Chibok girls.
First of all, we can thank Almighty Allah. And secondly, so we can thank the military, because without military, I don't think we are here. They have already done this to us, and up to now we are expecting from them to do it more than this. Years back, 2 to 3 years back, you may have Muna. So with the help of the military, that's why the peace has come now. I don't think over 3 to 4 years, if you say you can invite somebody, even us here, to come and stay here for more than 2 to 3 hours, nobody will accept it. There was a time they called us like this to the meeting, or they called us, we gather here 3 to 4 years back. They said they sent some people from Office of the National Security Advisor to come and see the Muna. If anything cannot be resolved, so all of us, we can leave the Muna. They will come and put the base of military here, from Chad Basin to here, they say. So with the military and our prayer, so now everything has come to the end.
We visited Molai, a former access point used by terrorists to infiltrate Maiduguri city.
My village head at Delwa. Just Boko Haram victimed my village. I'm coming in here, Maiduguri, and sitting. Now the Air Force soldier, he come to help about the sitting and my village, and doing about Kuka, so many, even market, all of them. I'm here in doing so many things, everything normally. No any shaking, no any wahala, no any fear.
The climax of the trip to the northeast was our visit to Memalari Military Cemetery, where lies the body of gallant officers and soldiers who paid the supreme price for peace and security in Nigeria. Elizabeth Tanko, reporting for Security Watch Africa.
May the souls of the departed soldiers rest in peace. You can say those who paid the price for peace to return in the Northeast. Some Nigerians are really putting their lives on the line for all of us to be safe. Yes, let me go quickly to who he has been waiting, my brother. David Otto is an counter-terrorism expert. He's there in the UK. How are you doing? Recently, just let's quickly because of time, last week there was the African Counter-Terrorism Summit that took place in Abuja. Feelers being gotten from across Africa is not so sweet because some people said they were not carried along. But as an expert in counter-terrorism, what can you briefly tell us arising from that summit and what should be done? Yeah, please, can you unmute?
Okay, I think that's fine now.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Patrick. As you rightly said, Africa has been at the forefront of insurgencies for decades. Specifically, countries like Nigeria for more than 2 decades now, depending on, if you take into consideration that just after 9/11, 2001, 2002, we had the Nigerian Taliban, which was the beginning of the insurgency. So there is no doubt, first of all, that countries like Nigeria have been at the forefront and continue to, fight against the insurgency groups in the likes of ISIS-related so-called Islamic State, and also the likes of Boko Haram, and other insurgency factions across the country. So if you're talking about, having experience, the Nigerian military and the Nigerian security agencies, the police, the intelligence services, should be at the forefront of Africa in terms of, coming up with an African-based counter-terrorism strategy. Of course, we don't have one yet. We would expect that, this is the beginning of, Nigeria leading the way. But we do recognize, as you rightly mentioned, that there are regional centers that exist, centers of excellence. Countries that have also experienced terrorism in the likes of Kenya, Algeria is one of them.
Tanzania.
Yes, Tanzania, Uganda, of course.
Somalia.
Yeah, it's experiencing the Al-Shabaab. Mozambique is experiencing the likes of they call themselves locally the Mochababus. Others call them Al-Shabaab in Mozambique.
Yeah.
So Africa is, has experienced and continues to experience insurgency in a local context. So it is just right, in my opinion, that when I saw this conference on Africa counterterrorism, I was quite impressed with the idea. But I think what we also need to consider is that this is perhaps the beginning, because we would expect to see some kind of a full representation of all the 5 regions of the continent to take part in the initial conceptualization. Bearing in mind that we do have 54 countries in the entire continent, and we have 5 regions, so each dynamics is different. But what I think would be important to see is how that implementation strategy, how that coordination and collaboration is going to take place. But I have no doubt that the Nigerian military, the Nigerian security agencies, even the Nigerian population is well experienced enough for Nigeria to host, to be the host of such a center, because they have the experience. Again, as I mentioned, they have the infrastructure, and of course, I think they have the right resources to do that. It's the biggest, most populous black nation in the world, and that itself is something that needs to be considered. So it's a good idea, but we've got to see how that is going to be implemented, how other regions are going to be brought, to coordinate, to get, some kind of a holistic approach, to African counterterrorism.
Yes, we could continue with this discussion because issues of counterterrorism is something that affects so many lives. But we'd want you to return back to Nigeria so we can sit face to face and look at the best way to do this, to prevent it, because extremism seems to be rising through the social medias. I don't know, briefly, maybe issues of extremism, how can it be curtailed? Because it's what is rising, this terrorism we're talking about.
You're very correct. This has been taken into consideration when they established the NAC test. That's the National Counterterrorism Strategy in 2016. Specifically, extremism is, a form of terrorism. So it's, I call it a subcategory of terrorism. So depending on whether you're talking about extremism when it has got into the point of violence, or you're talking about extremism as an ideology. So the five strands, one of them talks about forestalling. The other talks about identifying, and that's where the key comes in. How do you identify extremism at the very local level? And this is why I often talk about the natural, well, not natural, I think, the structure of Nigeria comes in place. You've got at the very bottom 774 local government areas. Of course, then you have 36 states plus the FCT, and then you have the federal at the top. So it's well, structured in a way that you can actually designate each state and each local government to identify extremism. At the very
Okay, yeah, we'll get a signal to leave for today. But like I said, as soon as you're back, we'll be furthering this discussion, maybe here in the studio, so that Nigerians can get the benefit of your knowledge. We do appreciate your contributions. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
All right, yeah, this is the end for this week. Join us again next week when we'll bring you another exciting edition. But before then, follow us on all our social media platforms. Send us your views and your comments on issues raised on this program today. Until next week, I say bye for now and remain blessed.